Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I think this is like episode 191. I mean, getting so close to 200. I'm so excited. I even know who's going to be on the 200th episode. I don't know what the date is because I'm not going to keep enough of the dates, and that's what Ashley's great at. But anyway, so today is all about my friend Brian Yohn, and I actually met Brian through Design Recharge. He's been coming to the show for a long time as far as I know. I think maybe he came when Megan D was on the first time, and then started a friendship and just have gone from there. And then we Skyped one time and he was doing some really cool stuff. And so I was like, you should be on the show. And we'll get into some of those cool things that he's going to talk about. But one of the things that we've never talked about on Design Recharge is design management. So to me, this is like maybe the next level for some people. Maybe it's a level that they don't want to get to. But I think Brian really enjoys being a manager, right?
Yes.
So I guess I want to dig into that a little bit. Some of us are freelancers and we're not managing anybody else at our day job, or we're not managing anybody else yet. But at some point, hopefully your company gets big enough and it grows that you do have to manage people. And there are other tools and other things that you have to know how to do. So we're going to get into that today. So I think it's really interesting. I definitely want to talk about his side project. So without further ado, super excited to introduce you to the link master, always in the chat. It is Brian Yohn.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Diane.
That was a long intro, but I really do. It makes a huge difference to me that you are a whiz at coming up with links usually. So somebody else will have to be the Brian today over in the chat. But we're going to get started. So tell us a little bit. It's a question I ask everybody, as you know, but tell us a little bit about your background and where your love for design kind of started.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Pennsylvania. I've always been interested in art. As a kid, I was always drawing something or other. My first freelance job was drawing the Simpsons characters for neighborhood kids, charging them, of course. Didn't have a contract, but I charged them.
That's good.
Yeah. And then in high school, I took communications technology class, and that kind of went over screen printing, offset printing, paper marbling, book binding, general computer-based layout. So that gave me kind of a appreciation for handmade design pieces. So that kind of piqued my interest, and then ended up going to a 2-year art school in New York, Pennsylvania, and then worked at several agencies in central Pennsylvania and one in southern Maryland as well. And then eventually came to Virginia Tech. I've been here for about 8 or 9 years. But
you haven't worked at the same job. You have had 2 or more jobs too?
Correct. Two different departments within Virginia Tech. But yeah, I started within the Division of Student Affairs, left to another department, and then came back to Student Affairs.
But as a manager?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, but were you managing at the other, or you were managing some people, but not everybody? I was trying to read up, like there's a couple of articles out there, and like you have your glamour shot, not really a glamour shot, but like
it's pretty terrible.
So serious. I was like, oh my gosh, did they make him take that super serious picture?
Yeah. I was trying to decide on whether to smile or not, and it's pretty bad. I'm not going to share that today.
Well, they can Google it.
Yeah, I know. You can find it.
Anyway, but is this your first management job?
No. So the first time I was with Division of Student Affairs, I was the graphic design manager. And then my current position is creative manager.
Ah, okay. All right. So let's dig in a little bit. So how have you used your knowledge as a designer working under possibly difficult management? You can get into that a little bit to make yourself a better designer, and then also to make you a better manager for in the future.
So so my previous position within Virginia Tech was, I won't say the name, but
Right.
my previous position, it was, in my mind's, poorly managed. And I was underneath that poor management, and I was, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I was.
It was difficult, right?
It was very difficult for me. Yeah.
And so you maybe were held down as a designer. So sometimes one of the managers I was under, he would always take all the cool stuff and give me all the kind of grunt work. And I was like, I'd like to do some cool stuff too. Is that some of the stuff that was going on, or was it even deeper than that?
It was deeper than that. It was a lot of kind of.
It's Megan. Doesn't help. Megan just write Big Brother is watching.
Yes. So micromanagement and passive aggressive behavior I was dealing with on a daily basis. I was the only creative on our team. So I was having to produce high level pieces on a very short time period. And I was the only one basically to no one really to back me up. So I was doing from posters to brochures to mail, full season guides. So basically my range of our target market was big money donors all the way to your general public.
How many people were on that team? Because this may be more of a marketing department.
Yes, it was. So there were probably close to 10 within that group. So there was some writers, there was a social media person, there was me, and then the patron services side of things. So that it was difficult just because I was the only one, and then on top of it was how I was kind of treated along the way. So what had happened was I was really depressed and anxious, and going to work was something that I did not want to do.
And it happened over time. It wasn't like you were like day one, you were depressed, but then you realized what the situation was, and it feels
Correct.
like there's no getting out. And I feel like there's a lot of people maybe in the chat that can relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I realized that there was a problem probably after about 6 months, that things weren't changing the way I was hoping they'd change.
Did you try? What were you trying to do to get things to change?
So I would reach out to my direct manager, and pose a question, and usually I'd get shut down. And then so I would go at several different angles to try to get what I thought was a better solution. But it just kept on getting shut down. And
do you think that there was some, because I think sometimes in these situations, some people are in a position they don't really know how to handle. And so they shoot down ideas because they don't want anybody to know that they don't know what to do. Or
I think so. I think having had gone through that, I think looking back, I realized that not everyone is a manager, and not everyone should be a manager. Some should hopefully realize that and hopefully step down from those roles. How do
you know? How did you know when you were a manager? How did you know this was a good fit?
So I always, in my career, I've always wanted to be, like, from the start, I always thought I wanted to, like, shoot for being an art director, and I was going to be happy at being that kind of in the middle. I didn't want to go creative director level, because that would have me kind of step out of that design on a daily basis role. And I didn't want that. So my thought was, okay, I'm going to shoot for art director. That way I can still have one foot in design world and one foot in kind of the manager role.
Right.
So I was in that role when I first started at Virginia Tech. And then when I came back to to student affairs, I was in more of that creative director role, which I've learned to love. So
you're doing less design now.
I am, yes. Well, at least in my 9-to-5 role.
Right. Okay. So how do you think having maybe a bad manager helped you to be a better manager?
I think I realized what not to do.
Like what?
And not micromanaging, not to be passive aggressive, being a better communicator, and being kind of more upfront with people as I'm working with them, as reporting to my superiors, just kind of knowing what I didn't like and trying not to put anyone through that.
So like with a manager, this is a struggle, I think, is so micromanaging and then managing. I think so micromanaging is every day over your shoulder. Can you move this? Can you do this? And then managing, I think, is setting clear, defined goals or deadlines that they could come to you and show you the product, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's that. It's also having to be involved. Micromanagement would be having to be involved in every single step of the process. And when that's not the case, it's that I'm not being trusted. So that was another thing, to trust my team. Right.
So then the other thing is also giving them things that strengthen them and push them and challenge them, instead of just only using, sometimes people are like, hey, I'd really like to try this, but I don't know. And a lot of people get shot down at that point, which that also keeps you growing in a position.
Yeah.
So I think that it can be, it's about knowing which projects that you have time to let somebody fail at, and then we can go back and try something else. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that's fair? Is that a hard part of managing though?
I think so. I mean, I think what you try to do, and what I try to do at least, is to play on people's strong suits.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's more suited on illustration, to give it to them, and it all depends on who has what at that certain point in time. To be able to have the time to be able to do that is, another factor.
So one of the things, and then this is kind of, I guess, prefacing a little bit next week, but so I have Veronica Wong on, and she works at Shopify. I kept talking to her yesterday, and I kept saying Spotify, and that is not what she works for, but it's like one letter off, I knew it was Shopify. Anyway, but one of the things, and I feel like at small design firms, or you're in a small management thing, that those people are not going to stay there forever. So it's really preparing them to their next job, and preparing them to be able to move on, because that they're not going to live there forever, but you don't want them to go. But it's also, what your role is. And I feel like maybe that your old boss or your old manager was never about that. It was kind of like keeping you down, keeping you here, doing this.
Yep.
There is a loss. There's a fear of you building them up and sending them on their way. But Definitely. There's also that's the best part, because then you're part of the team.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think what I try to do, or I want to try to do at least, is with my current team, is know that some of them will definitely move on to bigger and better things, but hoping to kind of instill in them, kind of help them find their strong points, help them fill in those gaps that they I wanted to do an illustration based project, and that will help win their portfolio.
Right.
giving them kind of bigger pieces that they might, that that they're going to hit it out of the park, and that will be a fantastic piece to put in, to kind of showcase in their portfolio, to put on hang their hat on that. So that's what I look to do.
So how did you get out? Because when you're being oppressed and you're depressed, it's hard to get to that next place or to do work in the outside hours. How did you finally get out? How long did you stay at that job, and then how long did you stay with it so bad?
Yeah, I was at my previous job for about 3 years. So I realized there was a problem about 6 months in, and then from that point on, 2.5 years essentially, I was able to get out. So one thing that I did start, and I'll hint on this, is my project with my 8-year-old son. Well, now he's 8. He was 6, I think, at the time, or 7. So that was kind of an impetus for that project. That side project with him was not being able to kind of shine as much as I wanted to, being kind of worn out as in that role when my 9-to-5 job, and
right.
Then just kind of coming home and kind of unwinding with him in a creative way to kind of refresh that way. So
you still were doing some freelance, because I'm sure I love the Mark that is a ginger kid.
Yeah.
Right. Did you do that for Virginia Tech?
No. I think the work that I shared with you is mostly, some freelance, some was through this at Virginia Tech.
So I feel like having some of that freelance where you had your own power and you had some good feedback was really important, but it was also having a side project that you were passionate about.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if it made national headlines, but you and Benji, it was important to you and Benji.
Yep.
So I think Amy asked, yes, how did you, so, because sometimes it's really hard to get out of a depression, right?
It is. Yeah. And it took a lot for me. It took me kind of being honest with myself. And I mean, just hearing, talking with you, Diane, and hearing others that, depression in a bad job, like Amy said, is, yes, it does. Depression is a serious issue. And if you don't seek help, and kind of surround yourself with people who are willing to help you through that, it's tough. So I did go to the doctor and talk with her very honestly about my depression, and I had migraines. I was struggling through being beat down at work, and then having migraines, and then depression and anxiety. Like all of us was it was just like a bad scene. So I knew, I think it wasn't this past Easter Sunday, but it was the previous. I had like a mental breakdown, and I was beside myself, like crying. It was pretty bad. And that's kind of when I realized I need to do something about this. This is ruining my life. This is ruining, in turn, my life and my family life, and everything sucked. So I knew I had to change something.
So then you sought out, and Blacksburg is pretty small.
Yes.
It's not like this metropolis.
No.
So it's really difficult. And then it's difficult to find another position. Holly already works, I think she works at Virginia Tech too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She does.
So, I mean, Virginia Tech's big, but that's pretty much it in Blacksburg.
Yep.
So that can be depressing as well. So you feel like maybe, I know Amy, I've talked to Amy, and you're limited on where you feel like your skills are and where you feel like you can go. So to me, this is one of your hero parts of your story, is that you were able to get out.
Yep.
And that you also are able to be a great manager. So I appreciate you being honest and sharing that with everybody. Now I'm going to ask Dan's question. Well, Dan's going to ask his question. It says, how does your design process differ from your managerial or leadership style or process? Are there any similarities that you've been able to capitalize on? Great question, Dan.
It is, yeah. Thank you, Dan. So I'd say probably staying organized or as organized as possible has kind of worked out for me in both design process and managerial process or leadership style. And just trying to, if you're not directly involved in the project, just to kind of try to stay looped in some way, shape, or form, to know kind of how to talk to or through a problem if something would come up, is to kind of be in the know and kind of help through that process.
Do you think that it's also, I mean, having a good attitude that you don't maybe know everything and a teachable spirit, even as the manager, is really important?
Definitely. So one thing that I can relate this to directly is I've never dealt with dealing with video or a huge bit of photography either, or managing that portion of it previous to this position. So that was kind of a learning curve for me, is learning more about the whole process behind photography and videography. And our current videographer right now is Judd. He's fantastic. Judd, if you're listening, you're awesome. You're super talented. And I've learned a lot from him. And I think, and looking back to other previous photographers that we've had, they're like extremely talented, extremely knowledgeable, and just kind of picking up along the way how that works, and wanting. I'm generally interested in learning more, and I think that type of the way that I go at that, those types of things that I am, it's not my forte, has really helped. I think the process, that I'm able to kind of speak to those things that I'm not super comfortable with doing.
And letting them really help teach you is incredibly important. So Doc said, I would imagine that if it frustrated you as an employee, it would do the same for your employees if your employees see that in you. So I think that
exactly.
Yeah. So some people have trouble getting out from under poor management. We've kind of talked about this for various reasons. So you kind of said it was like 2.5 years. So I just want to touch just a little bit on this, even though you said you tried to improve the situation. Did you ever get another designer that worked with you? Because sometimes just having somebody to commiserate with, not that you want to like, oh my gosh, I hate my job, I hate, but just that somebody else sees the issue. Did you ever have anybody that saw what was happening?
So I had a group within that position, my past position, that I could kind of go to. So yeah, there was like a users group, essentially, of designers on campus that we would get together every month or so for lunch. So that was helpful. Just kind of vent a little bit.
So again, like surrounding yourself with some people who were positive and helped you believe in yourself, I think having external clients or doing the project with Benji, I think was critical to you getting out and feeling like you could be successful somewhere else. Definitely.
Yeah. It was helpful just to get out of the office also. So that was helpful, just to kind of get a mental break.
So when you're looking for another job, what kind of questions did you ask to make sure that you understood the work environment or who you would be working under so that you weren't going to go into the same sort of situation again?
Right. I think I was a lot better at asking upfront questions. So being more upfront with how does this work? What's the process? Like wanting to know more about the position, how it would be handled, how just the reporting structure, that type of thing was really important to me. And knowing that now, that's always going to be a question that I ask about if for any future interviews.
Right. Okay, so Doc had a good question. So now that you're out from under the bad management, what are qualities in your team members that mean the most to you as a director? And then we'll get to the next part of the question.
I'd say just trusting them and what they're good at, and letting them kind of get out of my own way. I think that's a saying, isn't it? Get out of your own way. I think just getting out of the way and letting them do the job. I mean, I think that's what I always wanted to do. So just get out of the way and let them do their work and do a great job.
So Holly says there's just trust. It's actually trusting them and letting them feel like they have power and control. Yes,
definitely. I mean, they do. It's not making them want to feel that way. It is. It's making them have that kind of lead role in that project, or showing them that they're able to do that with very little hand-holding, which at this point is very good, very easy to do because I have such a great team. So
as you're finding these team people, right, people for your team, this next question kind of goes to that. So what do you find the most helpful and makes a successful participant in the company or team? Like a character trait or a trait, I guess, maybe?
I'd say, again, like, trust, willingness to trust and to be trusted. And just show that you're able to do a great job all the time. Work on the things that you're not so good at, and just work with the team, the best way you can.
So Holly also said earlier, she's like, you today, it's great. She's like, you should talk about openness to personal development, conferences, classes, etc. Like, I think that's something you believe in.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely. I think conferences are like a necessary thing that everyone should go to, especially designers. I think that there's a huge benefit of going to conferences like Creative South.
Do you have a favorite conference? Megan wants to know.
I don't want to play favorites, but Creative South is pretty awesome.
And it's inexpensive.
Exactly. It's very cost effective. It's extremely. It's an awesome conference. The 2 years that I was able to go, it was very, very cool.
So Megan, we've been trying to get you to go. So come on.
Right.
Let's go.
Get on it.
That's right. So I think I answered all of Doc's parts. So I have a question that's not on the sheet. So what about when you, so I think trust is really important, but it's also setting clear expectations, which you've already talked about, having clear communication.
Yep.
Really important. But what if somebody continues to not live up to their expectations or not meet their deadlines? I do think that there has to be, and it's difficult in a university setting to have some sort of like repercussions for things. And I don't know if it's just academia or if it's lots of companies. I would think lots of companies have that same thing. There's so much red tape to try to get somebody a pay decrease or fired or whatever. So how, like, some of that is motivation and some of it's hiring people who don't need to be motivated. They're self.
Right. I think for me, sometimes you have to, well, you come into a team like I was a year ago, you don't have the flexibility or the you're not able to hire everyone for your team, that team. So you kind of have to, it's kind of like you have to work with what you're given sometimes, and work with the team members that have been there, and try your best to work better with them. If you're able to influence them in some way, shape, or form and make the process better, do it. And if you're not in that role, if they're, say, above you in the structure of that department, I think just kind of trying to find the best way to communicate with others, working better with them, and just make the process a better process.
Okay. So what's been the most unexpected challenge that you've faced since becoming a manager?
I think letting go of design in general. I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't able to do both design and manage at the same level, at least. Right. I had to kind of relinquish that role, and like I said again, trust on with my team to kind of take it and run with it, and I mean they're fine with it for the most part.
So then what's been the best unexpected positive or benefit as being a manager that you didn't expect?
I enjoy watching people grow, and kind of I try to make the best environment for them. So just watching them kind of get better and watch them kind of create things that I was certain that they could do. Just the way they go at it it's pretty impressive sometimes.
So maybe instead of using your creativity for making a poster or a bus wrap, now you're kind of using your creativity to help other people grow.
Yep. Yeah. Just kind of providing that environment, that positive work environment that they want to come to every day, or hopefully they do, guys.
So Doc says one of the things he's worried about, his fear is missing creating. And it sounds like maybe you just kind of do it in a different way. And I feel like you still create stuff on your own with your freelance and with the side projects. But he said, finding the line between what is good and bad design versus my opinion. He also, I guess, kind of had that statement, but that can be, so if you're managing, well, I just don't like that. But sometimes that's not the answer. Does this communicate well, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. Finding the best ways that meet the needs within the time constraints. Kind of looking at those factors and kind of taking a step back, looking at that high level view of, okay, you're really deep into this project right now. Did you consider that this might not do X, Y, Z?
Right.
So yeah, looking at it in a from not to say that I'm an expert at anything, but looking at it in in a way that you can say, okay, I've done this kind of before, and I'm pretty sure that this would work a little bit better if it were this way.
Right. So it's just experience and sharing that and letting,
I think so, yeah.
and being there for the creative process, brainstorming, or helping them when they hit that struggle or that rock in the path, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mara also says, let your designers see the work their work in the wild. And I think that that's really important. That becomes this success. So do you have and this wasn't on this off script, I guess, but do you have an example or a story of when one of your teammates, I don't know, whatever, people on your team, they were hit a struggle, and then you came in and helped them or pushed them in a certain way, and then they had an even better product? Because that sounds like a great case study for you as you go to a next position.
Sure.
As, hey, this is what I do as a creative director. I give people the freedom and the trust, but then when they get stuck, this is how I help. Or they're just perfect and they never have any problems.
They're pretty good. Let's put it that way. They're very talented and they know what they're doing. I mean, everyone runs into a roadblock at some point, but I think just trying to offer up something that they might not have thought about before, or trying to kind of provide that that little window of inspiration, some way, shape, or form. One thing we do in our office is, we do sometimes, is we have creative meetings every week as a group. So every Friday at 11, we'll get together and do some sort of creative exercise. Sometimes it's with Legos, sometimes it's with anything really.
Legos or logos?
Legos.
Okay. That does sound like fun. Is that something that you always wanted and then you implemented, or is that something that you had seen and been a part of in another position?
I implemented that my first time around with this group, and it continued and went down. It kind of stopped for a while, I guess, and then I kind of brought it back. I saw the positive
benefits,
things that could come from it. Yeah. And there's always food.
Yeah, Patty says with food. That's good. So, Amy or Rajim asked, was there any hesitation with stepping into the role of management? Because, like Doc said, that could be is a fear for him not being able to create. So, was that a hesitation?
I mean, a little bit. I tossed around in my mind and kind of talked with my wife about it before I took this role, because I knew it was going to be a little bit more removed from like daily design. But yeah, like she said, I've always wanted to teach. That was something that I wanted to do pretty early on, and seeing that I was at a university that I was able to have that design education there. It helped kind of with that want or need to be in that teacher manager role.
Mm-hmm. So Holly says you've always wanted to teach, and really managing people in a bigger team is the closest that you can get to teaching without more schooling at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how many people are you managing?
Right now, directly manage 1, 2, 3, 4 plus 3 students.
And so in all the pictures, it looked like all women. And so I was like, oh man, is that an issue? And you're like, it's not all women. I have men that work for me too. But I guess only the women get in the pictures.
Usually. At that point, a lot of those photos were taken at events, and at the time there were can you all see that?
Yep.
Okay. There weren't any other males on the team, so I was going to these events. These were all at or this one is at an local Addy celebration. That was from last year, maybe? Yes. And then this was from our staff appreciation day. I designed those t-shirts.
How fun.
And we all wore them, and we kicked butt, and we won. Oops.
Hey, there's kicking butt.
Yeah. And this was Molly, who's being held right now in this photo, her last day in our office.
Oh, nice.
Previous videographer, photographer.
And so I got to meet Rachel. She was in the yellow in that last picture.
Yes.
She came to Creative South. So this is, again, not something you're like, I'm going to go to this conference. See you guys next week. It's like, hey, anybody who wants to go, let's go. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So Rachel is a wage designer. She's incredibly talented. Wage? Yeah.
W-8, like for money?
Yeah.
I don't know what that. She's designing money?
Wage and. No. So that, I guess we call that, I guess it's an internal thing.
I'm like, I've never heard of this. You get to design money? I know you're in Virginia, but.
So she's a wage designer, meaning she's basically paid hourly. There's a $1,500 hour wage position.
Okay, I get it. I'm thinking like UX designer, like you were saying. Anyway, I'm sorry.
So yeah, our wage employees don't get the benefits that us salary folks do. So I've always wanted to take them places that they might not usually get a chance to go. So yes, I took
all the people from Virginia are like saying like, "Oh, Diane, like, you have no idea. Like this is hourly employee." I'm so sorry. It must be a Virginia thing. Anyway.
Yes. So.
Giving her benefits in other ways, then, right?
Yes, exactly. And I've always seen a very huge benefit in conferences. So wanting to share that with them as much as possible. Like she and I also went to an event. It was a day event in Richmond that we just drove there for the day, stayed the night. It was a really cool event put on by a Richmond-based printer. Yes. It was Worth Higgins put it on. It was a kind of a about craftsmanship. So they had local printers. They had some workshops. They had a series of speakers that spoke. Mohawk Paper was there. It was a really, really cool event. And I was glad that we could kind of go together and show her that. That was neat.
Yeah, that is cool. So does the size of the group, do you think, make it more challenging? Do you think if you had 10 people, it would be worse or better?
More people?
More people. If you had more people, because it sounds like you have 4 full-time and then 2 student workers.
Yeah.
Right? So that's 6. Right?
I don't know. Yeah, I managed roughly 6 people around that. Okay. Not good at math. I think it would be it would be better maybe. I don't know. Just to fill in the amount of work that we do. It would be helpful to have that extra people on staff.
So Patty says one of your greatest strengths is your ability. Oh, I love this. Is your ability to collaborate and not a big ego, just a big talent. I think that's an awesome Thank you, Patty. That's awesome. Right? That's super nice. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes. You just like.
I'm sorry. I was
Oh, you were typing.
The chat isn't working. Yeah.
I know it did that to me too. So just
there we go.
You can.
Okay.
You don't have to just chat.
Thank you, Patty.
You can actually.
Yeah.
Say it out loud.
I'm used to typing.
I know.
Yes. Thank you, Patty. Yeah. I love you guys.
So, all right. So, going back to this, because we have 15 minutes and I want to get on, and we've kind of talked about some of these other things. So right now you're not doing much design, at work. So it'd be 0 or 2 or 5. Do you ever take over?
What, people?
No, like designing. What percentage of your time is spent designing?
Probably about 10%, maybe.
Okay. So how about any rifts in the team? Sometimes working with all women can be great, but sometimes it can. We all know, right? Like, or maybe it's men too. I don't know, but I'm a woman, so there can be issues, right? So, is there anything like, what do you do with rifts in the team, women or men?
I usually try to talk with if there's any issues, talk with them directly, in private, preferably, and try to be upfront with them, like I said, and be honest with them, hoping that everyone will be honest, with me if I have any issues that they think they can, that I can work on, which I know I have. So yeah, just being honest.
So then what about, sometimes they have unrealistic expectations, like, can you get this done tomorrow or something, right? Because they just don't know. And I think that really happened a lot in your last job. But do you feel like you're always under the gun and that you don't have time to invest in new skills or have your people invest in new skills? Or do you feel like that you can do that? And do you do like a retreat every year? Or is it really like the Thursday mornings or Friday mornings, like the creative sparks that you do?
I think the creative meetings that we have on Fridays is a kind of an ongoing retreat, if you will. But I think since we have a new leadership within our department, yes, we will be doing retreats, knowing her management style. That I think is a huge help, and having that leadership that's willing to put the time in to know that this is needed, this is necessary in order for everyone to kind of keep sane.
Right. Well, and so kind of with the rift or groups within a group, so when it gets bigger, there are smaller factions that kind of happen, and people are going to have friendships, but it's just make sure that they're open to the other people when you're working. But Doc said, how can guys step up these or any situations in the workplace? I've heard about boys clubs, in quotes. Is that something that is weeded out by the culture that you set with the team, and you kind of kill it before it gets out of hand? Or do you have anything like that? Any situations like that?
I don't think I have anything like set in stone, but if I would see any favoritism or someone's left out of the group, which I mean, with our direct creative team in our space, that's not an issue. But I think I'd try to squash it as far as if there were any issues that I saw, or if anyone else saw that brought to my attention. I'm not overseeing like everything and know every little thing that's going on, but if someone brings it to my attention, I'll try to squash it.
So again, having open communication, feeling like they can talk to you is really important.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. So you have an interesting side project with your son, Benji, and you started it like 2 years ago? A year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're no longer the manager, and he is the manager to some extent, right? He tells you,
That's right.
he's now directing you. How do you think that helps you also to be a good designer? And can you tell us a little bit about the project and why you started it?
Yeah, sure. So my side project is called the Benji and Daddy Workshop. Benji is our 8-year-old son. He is very rambunctious, very energetic, and he is always enjoyed drawing in general, and creating these kind of wild things, drawings, crafts, anything like that. So it started. I started it because of my work situation, my previous job. I'll show you some stuff. There we are. So this was at a friend's house over. They have a photo booth. Anyways, that's just a little fun.
Looks like you're forcing him to drink something.
I was trying, and he didn't want to have anything to do with it. I wasn't forcing. He didn't want it. So this was just something that I kind of felt like I needed to do, and I needed to kind of get out from that 9-to-5 funk that I was in, and felt like I needed to do something completely different with someone who I saw as a pretty creative, an extremely creative person that I should be interacting with on a more regular basis because he's my son. So yeah, he kind of took the role, the lead role in this whole project. This was our first. This is my first post to the blog. So the top one, they were just kind of things that he drew on his own, completely on his own, and then I would take and recreate them in Illustrator. And yeah, in my
over your shoulder, kind of like, do this, Dad. No, make that, or would he?
So yeah, he would. I tried to do these when he was still awake. In the evenings, I'd be working on them, and I'd always call him over and say, "Hey, come here and check this out. What do you think?" And he'd remember drawing the original, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that." And he would art direct. Essentially, he would stand over me and over my shoulder and fold his arms and put his hands on his mouth, like art directors do. And he would kind of say, "Oh, that should be flipped the other way. He should be running the other way." So it would be a slightly different from his original drawing, but he would say, it should be on the other way. So he would always art direct that portion as much as he can. Of course, can't have him up late at night. So this particular one is something we call association creation. Mm-hmm. And so we come up with a random word generator to create two words that might not make sense. Like mm-hmm. This one is old square. So
that's great.
So we draw apart from each other, and then we come together at the end and compare or contrast the concepts that we would have. So this is a burger monster.
Yeah.
So he labeled them olives as the eyes, as I did the same thing, but it kind of exploded.
I like that his olives are pretty easy.
So this was something that I've oh yeah, totally.
But he wrote olives.
He's always,
in case.
Yeah. Just to make sure. Yeah. So he's always been very detailed oriented. So and this is interesting, kind of a selfish thing for me, is that I wanted to draw more and draw more often and regular on a regular basis. So this helped that kind of scratch my itch on that portion of it. So that was nice, kind of a, like I said, a selfish way to look at things. So, and this is another one where I don't know why he drew a bad guy. Apparently, bad guys do. They're always wearing jail uniforms or a beanie hat and always robbing banks. So,
and a very evil smile.
Yeah. Missing teeth. Yeah.
Right.
The whole nine. So yeah, I recreated this, and I was hoping that this would catch on and people would be hanging this around like their towns, just because I thought it was really funny.
It is funny. So what is that next one? Because that one was one I really think is visually really beautiful, but I didn't understand why there wasn't more blue.
So in mine,
yeah.
I don't know. It's a bee. So
right.
my wife's an entomologist. So there's always been a love of insects around our house, and I thought this was extremely interesting. The way he kind of built this in a extremely symmetrical view of over top of a graphic bee.
Right.
So I thought that was insanely creative. So I basically took that and did it in Illustrator.
Yeah, I love it. So Holly says the big blue piece was just the base.
Right. That's how everything kind of was held together.
Yeah. Well, you had to have something, right? They don't just stick together unless they're linked.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. This was another thing. This? It was packaging for a paint, some paint jars. So we just took it apart, and I said, "Hey, let's make some animals out of this. What are you gonna make?" And he made the top one, the cat, and I made a little koala bear on the bottom.
That's good.
Yeah.
Holly says, talk about the Art Zuka bin.
Oh, so there's this Canadian show. It's called Art Zuka. It's really weird. They take basically just scrap whatever it is, lids to things. Yes, she has a hoarder of packaging. Lids, jars, paper, foam objects, foil, buttons, basically anything that you could do anything with. So glue, all kinds of stuff that they could kind of just make something out of those random pieces, bits and pieces.
So now this one does not look like your hand.
So the outline of it was from the Ginger Kid logo that I had sent you. There.
Yeah, I love that.
I was working on.
So cute.
I was working on a sticker that would go on the back of these toys, wooden toys. So, am I cutting out?
A little bit, but it's okay.
So I was just recreating the sticker that it was on the back of like all toys. It's for like 0 to 3 year old kids. Like, you shouldn't play with these. I made the logo into a sad face, and then he came down and was like, "What are you doing?" And so I said, "I'm working on this thing." So I copied and pasted it over in Illustrator into its own space, and then I showed him the blob brush tool. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
In Illustrator?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, he was able to color everything in and add details to this illustration in his own way, and he was able to kind of learn the general idea of Illustrator, how like kind of the shapes worked, how they kind of work together on top of each other, in back of each other. So I think I'd like to kind of go more into that at some point. Just to show them a little bit more of the detailed bits and pieces of Illustrator or just design programs in general.
So now you have 2 kids, Brian.
Yes.
What about Katie?
So Katie is our 5-year-old. She wants to. She loves to draw too. She's, I think, a pretty good illustrator for a 5-year-old, or in general. Some adults aren't very good either, but she has a very good imagination. She'll sit in a room for hours on hours, just kind of doing just imaginative play with herself. But yeah, I think eventually we'll pull Katie into it, and I guess at some point the name will have to change from the Benji and Daddy Workshop to something else. But in the meantime, she said, "You guys have your project. I think Mommy and Mimi and I should have a shop too." And she said she wants to call it the Katie and Mommy and Mimi Cupcake Shop. So maybe they'll make cupcakes someday, or
maybe she could decorate them and put stuff on them.
That's right. So there's all creative ways that she could do this.
Oh yeah, and then Holly could get the packaging, because then she'll collect.
That's right. We'll do the packaging and branding.
That's good. All right, so we are almost out of time, but I just want you to know that it makes a huge difference for you to be here every Wednesday in the chat, typing in and helping out with so many people, and helps me a ton. And so I always want you to know that I hope you feel like part of the family, but then I am open to ways of making it better, right? Within my financial abilities.
Sure.
So I'm actually open to anybody's suggestions. But Brian, do you have any suggestions for me?
I'd say just contribute as much as you can. Put your 2 cents in. Add your 2 cents in. It's always interesting to kind of hear someone's backstory, and listening to the folks that kind of tune in every week and add their spin on things. It's really a good thing. Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe at Creative South, maybe we could do a design recharge breakfast or a meal or something where people that were in the community could come together and then meet each other. I think that would be an interesting thing for us to do.
Yes, definitely. For sure. It would be great to, I know of a lot of your listeners or followers. I don't know, what do you call us?
I don't know, maybe the team, the family, I don't know.
Family. Okay. I like family. That's good. I know a lot of them through just following them on social media. So trying to kind of be involved in kind of their, kind of bring myself into their circles. Mm-hmm. Cult, yes. Yeah, I think trying to get involved and learn more about them personally on a personal level, I think is really cool.
Well, good. Those are things I can implement to some extent, and I can encourage, because I do think following really helps. So I'm going to share some ways for people to follow. You actually have 2 different kind of, you have your personal work, and then you have your Benji and Daddy stuff. So I'm going to share both so that everybody can get, and I'm actually going to spell it out just in case. So for people who are listening on a podcast and they're not actually seeing anything. So you can go to Brian is with an I, BrianYohn design, one design, not plural, .com. So BrianYohndesig.com. And then the Benji and Daddy is Benji. That's a normal spelling of Benji. And then the word and then Daddy, and then workshop.com. And then on Instagram, it's Benji Daddy WKSHP. And on Facebook, it's Benji and Daddy Workshop. It's the same spelling of workshop for Twitter, or for Instagram and Twitter, where it's just WKSHP. Is that just because you're limited on number of characters, probably? Maybe?
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm going to put all those. Oh, man, I was going to copy and paste it, and I was trying to read it, and but it's doing that weird thing again. There we go. It'll be on the page under the stuff. So anyway, I just am glad. So one of the awesome things that I thought, and I know we're over time, we're always over time, but he had a sewing machine in his basement, and I was like, oh, because I love to be crafty and sewing, and usually that's, not necessarily something that men are known for. And so I was like, Brian, whose sewing machine is that? Is that Holly's or is it yours? And he's like, it's mine. I was thinking, oh my gosh, what do you do with this sewing machine? Like thinking he makes like animals or puppets or something. He's like, no, I fix myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, you could do so much like with design, like do packaging. Hey, you got packaging for your cupcake company. You could like sew the thing. Sure. That could be you can do a lot with a sewing machine. And I think it's an awesome tool. It's like a drill, sewing machine.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, I thought that was really cool. Don't y'all think that's cool that he has a sewing machine and it's his?
There it is.
But when we met the first time, I could see the sewing machine and I was like, oh. Anyway, it was just, I think that's really cool. Like I said, I'm glad the kids see him sewing. I think that's awesome. And I told my husband that, and he's like, well, you have a sewing machine, Diane. And he's a welder, so he gets holes in his socks all the time. He's like, well, can't you fix my socks? I was like, nope. I know.
Dropping hints.
I do iron on patches for his pants, but yeah, I'm not as good as you. Yeah.
It works.
Yeah. So do you have any, besides incorporating Katie more into your side projects, do you have any more plans for any other side projects?
I do. I don't know if I'm at liberty to tell at this point, but I'd like to think that the Benji and Daddy Workshop concept is scalable. So I'm looking into ways to expand that to more beyond just my family. So just a little hint.
That's cool. That's really good.
Maybe things to come. So
well, I think just having you go.
No, go ahead.
You go. Are you frozen?
I don't know what I was saying.
Oh, boogers.
No, I didn't know what I was saying. Go ahead.
No, I don't remember what I was saying. Anyway, I'm excited. I think it would. So I know what I was going to say. It was about like the creative projects that you do, or the prompts. It's like coming up with things like that. I think some people might, men or women, moms or dads, would love those exercises, but they don't know how. We kind of take some of those things for granted, but I think other people don't know what to do. So like,
yes.
So Scotty,
that's kind of the yeah.
Scotty Russell just came up with the content checklist.
Scotty.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about? He has a content checklist where it's like a one-time fee and you get like a PDF and you get things that are weekly content strategies. So it's kind of like the same thing you could do. I'm just giving you an idea. Of course, you probably already have these ideas and I'm just, anyway, but I think you could do something like that because I think at some point people get stuck with what you can do. Like Doc has 3 kids, maybe 4. And I mean, it's hard to juggle all that. And so how do you make, some of your older kids maybe do, you know what I mean? Feel like they have time, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's cool.
Yep. Yeah, I think that the concept that I have for this bigger thing, whatever it becomes, it will kind of span, like I said, kids and adults and non-creatives and anything. Yeah.
Cool. I'm excited. All right. So what I forget to do almost every week is tell you what's coming up next and to tell you how to find me if you're listening. So you can find me on @DesignRecharge. I'm not going to spell that out, but I'm pretty sure you can. There's no letters missing. And then you can always email me and I actually respond at Diane@rechargingyou.com or Diane@designrecharge.org. But feel free to follow me again with Brian on his personal site. I'm just going to say that again, brianyohndesign.com. And his Instagram and Twitter and Dribble are Yohn Face, which I'm not sure about the face. How come you chose that?
A former coworker of mine just called me on Face one day. It kind of stuck.
Huh. Good to know. And then the other is BenjiandDaddyWorkshop.com. And then it's again the one I already had spelled, Benji Daddy, WKSHP. It's work. Oh, but there's no. Anyway, I can't say that. So I was trying to make it easier. Anyway,
go through the site. If you go to the BenjiandDaddyWorkshop.com, you can find all the social things on there.
Awesome. So next week we have Veronica Wong. She works for not Spotify. She works for Shopify. And she's going to talk about how they have a really neat management system there, and they encourage their workers to actually start shops. And she started a shop. She uses her hand lettering. I was saying land lettering, her hand lettering, and she does these cake toppers, and they are amazing. So we're going to talk about Shopify. So if you've ever been interested and you want to know about starting a online store, this would be a kind of easy way to kind of come in with little money. You don't have to have a whole thing built or have a whole web, it's very easy to integrate. And there's some lower price point products to do. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and also just about how changing teams within one company. She's in Canada, so a lot of people I think will be moving there. So you could ask her some questions about Canada. Anyway, she's great, and she also comes to Creative South. So again, another way for you guys to connect. So check her out. I think she's super V on everything, VEE. But anyway, so we'll see her next week. Hit me up with some questions if you think of anything, and I'll send you my questions next week. And thank you guys so much for listening and for being here.
Thank you all.
All right. Well, I'm going to hit stop. So